What up? It's your boy Akie checking in here with another video. Today I'm going to talk to you about the costs that you have to pay every single month that really people don't, as us as wholesalers, really don't keep account of, when we're considering what our maximum allowable offer is to the seller. Now, this is something that you can really literally make thousands of dollars on in terms of negotiating with the seller, but also gives you, that goodwill with the buyer. Because once you start building in what it is that these things are, you can really start to see a big impact in your business overall. So, what are these costs? Carrying costs are essentially the taxes. Carrying costs are HOA fees. Carrying costs is things like insurance, among a whole bunch of other things that the buyer who's going to be either rehabbing the property or either going to be renting out the property have to account for every single month. Now, the way this affects you as a wholesaler, me as a wholesaler, is we need to be very empathetic in where we give them the price of the property at. So whenever you're calculating, your maximum allowable offer, the max amount of money that you can give the seller, you need to account for that. Now, this is something typically that I would use as a kind of a, I guess you could say, just something that you can keep up your sleeve, and that this is the last thing that you discuss with them. Carrying costs are minute, but at the same time huge. Just because they are real fees that you have to pay every single month. And they know this because if it's a vacant property, this is what they're paying. And they understand that that you do have to pay electric if the house is vacant, and they are paying those electric bills. They do understand that insurance still need to be paid. They understand that their HOA fees still need to be paid. They understand that all these things need to be paid, and they know that just because they were doing it. Or if they're tax default and they weren't doing it. These things are mandatory, and whether they get backed up or not, these things still need to be paid. And carrying costs are something that you can negotiate when you're going back to the seller for another reason, because, if this is a property that is badly damaged, you could simply just remind them that in the process of this being done, insurance is going to be increased, that the electric bill is obviously going to be increased. HOA fees, things like that are going to stay the same. But overall, when things are being used in terms of electricity, people doing construction, things do go up. There are liabilities at that point, and from that point, those things need to be paid for and accounted for. So yeah, that's kind of a whole gist of what a carrying cost is. And obviously, I explained why you need to account for that for the seller and the buyer. Now, the buyer is going to respect you so much more for accounting for this. If they do a whole bunch of deals during the year, they're obviously going to, consider you first. You're going to be at the top of that Rolodex just because you took the extra initiative and you took the extra time to account for those things that they're obviously going to have to pay. But obviously, you look more professional because you don't have to go back to your seller, and you don't have to negotiate that. You don't have to negotiate that. You don't have to negotiate that in terms of you not knowing it, because it's really a newbie thing whenever you're getting a price, or rather you being in a market for a while and then you having to go back to the seller and explain to them why you have to lower your price. But when you already know these things and you bring a deal, and they can, without a shadow of a doubt, know that this person accounts for everything. They know my repairs. They know my the length of time I'm going to have it. They know how quickly I can do a flip, and then they know my carrying costs. Bro, that's that. I mean, that really is. I mean, think about it. If you were fixing up a property and somebody had all that information readily available, and 10 times out of 10, it was accurate. You'd rather do business with that person rather than looking at a deal, and then telling this person, hey, if you can't get this number right here, then we're not going to be able to close on your deal. And obviously, not being able to close transactions is obviously going to not only distract you, not only going to discourage you, but ultimately maybe even cause a seller to want to cancel the contract, and just bad word of mouth, stuff like that spreads, and you don't want that kind of thing. So, just reviewing. What is a carrying cost? Carrying costs are taxes. Carrying costs is insurance. Carrying costs is HOA fees. And these things are things you have to pay every single month. And so, for instance, the taxes on a property are typically going to be anywhere from 1% to 3% of the total value of the property. So, for example, if a property is $100,000, then typically they're going to pay around $1,000 a year. So you can just divide that by 12, and that's how much taxes they pay per year for the tax. The insurance, that may vary. And then for the HOA fees. Now, this is something that's kind of tricky because HOA fees are not something that every single house has. HOA just basically stands for housing association, where properties that are within a complex, within a subdivision, have to pay. HOA fees are kind of, I guess you'd want to say, for the upper mid to upper suburb properties and homes. These things pay for things like, if it's a gated community, they pay for the gates. If it's for, the gardening, the nice landscaping around the sign that names the subdivision, HOA fees would pay for that. And on top of that, obviously, if it's a HOA, then that would obviously go to whoever is issuing the HOA fees, whether that be a person or, obviously, it's not going to be a person individually. It's going to be a separate entity, a LLC, that's going to be collecting those HOA fees. So they want profit as well. You want to build that in there as well. So, yeah, that's really what carrying costs are. Carrying costs are something that can sneak up on you. Carrying costs, they are a minute, like I said, they're minute, but at the same time, HOA fees, we get deals because of HOA fees sometimes. I mean, not HOA fees. Sorry, man. We get deals because of some types of carrying costs. Because think about it. Properties that are tax delinquent, that 1 to 3% of the property value, some people can't even pay that at times, right? So, we can get deals off of those tax delinquent properties, especially if they're backed up between 1 to 2 or more years. Those properties become delinquent, and then from that point they go into just delinquency, and then we can purchase those properties either from the person that owes those taxes, or they eventually go into foreclosure and then they're sold. So yeah, carrying costs are something to pay attention to when you're wholesaling. Carrying costs are something to pay attention to when you're flipping. But especially if you're a wholesaler, man, and you want to look professional and you want to build that gap in, so that your buyers will love you, and also, when you're negotiating with your seller, it gives you a little bit of leverage to get a better price. All right, man. Akie signing off. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you in the next one. Peace.